In today's video, I'm sharing with you how to stress less so you can live more, Tools Edition. Let's get right into it. Okay, friends, welcome to the very last video in the Stress Less, Live More series. We have a total of, I think, 4 videos in the series, and the first 3 videos went through an actual system, an organization system, a productivity system that helps us stress less about our everyday life, about our adulting responsibilities, so that we can open up time and space to live more and practice our slow living practices. So, if you haven't seen any of those other videos, I do recommend you stop watching this one and go watch those. You do have to watch those in sequential order. We start with yearly, then we go to monthly, and then we go to weekly/daily in those videos, and the whole system is explained. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the tools that I use, the productivity tools that I use to help me maintain this system on a very practical and I think easy, accessible level. I know that this series is multiple videos long, so it seems intimidating, but it's actually not so bad. Once you set up the structure, it becomes second nature. It gets really, really simple, and then all you have to do is use the tools that I'll talk about in today's video to help you maintain the system. So of course, I felt like talking about the tools themselves and how I actually use them would be helpful and a good way to end things off in this series. So we're gonna jump right into it, and as you can see, I'm holding one of my main tools. As I go through the different tools, I will share them on the screen as well because some of them or most of them are digital, and I will also identify the yearly, monthly, weekly/daily area in which I use those tools. And I will just say as a caveat, most of these kind of intertwine, they blend together, and I'll explain exactly how. Okay, so my first tool clearly is my planner. This is my planner, and if you are curious about the details on this, I will link everything down below that I can find. But it is a Paper Republic journal. It's got a bunch of different mini journals inside of it, including a planner, a sketchbook, and then just like a regular blank notebook. And then I've got my little pen over here, and I've customized it. It looks very cute. I am absolutely obsessed with this thing, and you can probably tell that I try to share it as much as I possibly can because of that. But yes, I use the planner for daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly use. So my planner is my go-to for just about every single area in my Stress Less, Live More productivity system. And on a daily basis, I guess I should probably start from the large scale and then move into the smaller scale because that's the order in which we did the series. So from a yearly perspective, what I do is in this very last blank notebook in the back, I put my 2025 goals in there. That's where we started this entire series. It was with those yearly goals. And so I put my yearly goals down on paper in this little notebook so that I can always reference it whenever I need to. Then on a quarterly basis, you may know that I do quarterly reviews. We didn't do a section of quarterly in the series, but there are so many videos on my channel where I do personal quarterly reviews. I explain what that means. I go through my quarterly reviews. I think I have an entire year's worth or more on the channel, so you can check that out. But I do my quarterly reviews partly in my planner, because there's so much information in here from the quarters that it is very useful to do that in that way. And the quarterly review has a bunch of prompts. Again, you can see that in that video or in those videos. And I do the prompts in that blank notebook like I mentioned. I also flip through my planner, which is this book right here, that has all of the information that I need to help me gather my thoughts for my quarterly review. So again, very robust and comprehensive here, and that's how I use it on a quarterly basis. Now on a monthly basis, I also do my monthly reflections in here. Again, I have tons and tons of videos of my monthly resets and recaps on the channel, so you can definitely check it out, and you will see me in the video pull out my planner and flip through and find the things that I need to find in the planner. Again, this book here, and it helps me answer my monthly prompts, which go into this blank notebook again. So there's just a lot going on. It sounds like it's very intensive, but on a quarterly basis, I go in every few months, every quarter, and I sit down for a little bit and complete the prompts. On a monthly basis, it's even shorter than that because, of course, on a month-to-month basis is definitely a lot less time for me to reflect on. Don't get too intimidated by the fact that I'm using this a lot. And no, I haven't even gone through this blank notebook in many months. So there's not a lot happening. So don't be intimidated. On a weekly basis, I, of course, use the planner to plan out my weeks. And this is what it looks like inside. It's literally a week at a glance here. And so that's how I use it on a weekly basis. I'm putting in all the things that I do week by week. As you can see, this page is filled out, and all of the things that I do on a weekly basis. There are certain things that are very static that always happen on a particular day. And then there are other things that pop up here and there. And I explained as to why my system is like that in the previous video, the most recent one, where I talked about how we use the system on a weekly/daily basis. So there are things that happen on a daily basis that are consistent. There are things that come in here and there on a weekly basis, like once a week kind of basis. And so that's how it all kind of plays together. And then, of course, on a daily basis, I just mentioned, like, I'm using this on a daily basis. For example, today is Monday, so I have a newsletter going out. I have that written down. I have to check my Notion because I have a little thing in there. And then I have to film for YouTube, which is what I'm doing right now. So that is how I'm using it on a daily basis. And as you can probably see, they all interconnect in a type of way, and that's what the entire series is kind of harping on. So again, you have to watch those videos to know exactly what I'm talking about there. But that is my first planner organization tool for the Stress Less Live More system that I have. Now the next tool that I use is Google Keep, and I think the rest of the tools that I use are digital, so you'll see them on the screen. But the next tool is Google Keep, and I use Google Keep on a weekly basis and on a daily basis. If you did not know what Google Keep is, it's essentially just like an online to-do list. It's like a digital to-do list, and it's different from the Notes app on your that was a weird noise. It's different from the Notes app on your phone because the Notes app on your phone stays on your phone, or maybe if you have a cloud, it may sync somewhere. But Google Keep is accessible everywhere. It's on my mobile, it's on my desktop, it is syncing constantly. I can like pull it up on a random computer if I've never used that computer before. It just goes with me everywhere. It's extremely convenient and it's extremely customizable. I have think at least two videos about Google Keep on my channel, so you can check out an in-depth view into Google Keep. I will, again, also share some stuff on the screen so you can see what it looks like. But on a weekly basis, I use Google Keep for like my weekend to-do list. I will have a literal to-do list of things that I have to do on the weekend. And I also have a grocery list that I only use once a week because I only go to the grocery once a week. So those are two things that I really rely on in Google Keep, and I use it on a weekly basis. And on a daily basis, there are sometimes here and there types of to-do lists that, or just any kind of list that I want to jot down really quickly, but I don't necessarily want to carry around my planner to do that. So I will pull out Google Keep. Say, for example, I got a gift card for my birthday. This is a real life example. I got a gift card, or I got multiple gift cards for my birthday, and I wanted to track the balances of what I had on those gift cards and also make a list of the things that I wanted to spend my gift cards on. I will just quickly pull up a Google Keep list there and look through that and just keep track of my gift cards. So that's just one very one-off kind of example. Another example is like packing and getting prepared to go into the office, because I now work in a hybrid kind of schedule. And so I will use a to-do list in there to ensure that like my bag is packed and I have everything all set up for the day, because I do commute from one state to the next. So that's kind of necessary for me, at least. And so those are the ways that I use Google Keep in this system. The next tool that I use is Google Calendar. Again, I've done multiple videos on Google Calendar. I'm pretty sure I've done multiple videos on all of the things that I've mentioned. So just a heads up, if you want in-depth views into these things, you can just take a browse on my channel. I think I have like a tech playlist, and you can find all of those videos. But Google Calendar is my favorite calendar system. I love how customizable it is, but also how simple it is. And that's kind of like how I approach tech. Things that are convenient, customizable, but also pretty simple and minimalistic at the same time. And so Google Calendar is definitely that. I love all of the different features that you can do in Google Calendar. And I use Google Calendar on a quarterly, monthly, and weekly basis. So on a quarterly basis, I schedule in my quarterly reviews, like a block of time on my calendar, and I do that at the start of the year. I do that in January, and I set them up to have a recurring meeting every quarter on like a Friday or something. Fridays are usually my go-to days, and so it's already in my Google Calendar. It will notify me like the week of the quarterly review to let me know that my quarterly review is coming up. And so that's a really handy little time blocking type of thing that I use Google Calendar for. That's different than the usual stuff, like scheduling in birthdays or scheduling in a meeting or something like that. By the way, on a yearly basis, which I didn't mention, I do use it for birthdays. On a monthly basis, I use it for like my budget tracker. I have a reminder, just like the quarterly review reminder, to do my budget tracker at the start of a new month. I also have like certain other little tasks that I do regularly on a monthly basis that I have just little reminders in my Google Calendar. And then on a weekly basis, exactly the same. I had given this as an example of like growing tomatoes in a gardening season as part of this series, and I am growing plants in my garden as well. So I have a daily reminder, a weekly/daily reminder to water my plants every single day at a particular time. So that is me actually practicing the examples that I have mentioned in this series to you. And so, yeah, I am actually using it, and that's how I use it on a weekly, daily basis. I think another way I use it on a daily basis is if I have particular things that I know I want to get done in a day, I will set a quick task/reminder on my calendar so that it will pop up at a particular time. Let's say like I have to pay my bills on a particular week, I will plop it into a day of that week and then just have it remind me, and then it will just like tell me to do that. Basically all of the same types of tasks, reminders, invites, stuff like that, but just like depending on the time frame is how I use Google Calendar. Okay, and then the last tool that I have, probably the largest database that I have, and that is Notion. And I use Notion on a quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily basis. I didn't explain what Google Calendar was because I thought that it was pretty obvious, but Google Calendar is just like a digital calendar view. And then Notion, if you didn't know what Notion is basically a really huge, robust productivity system. Things like Asana and stuff like that it kind of falls into that area. And Notion is my personal favorite. You all know I use Notion in my monthly reflections and in my quarterly review videos all the time, so you can actually see me do Notion tours on a very regular basis on this channel. And I like to customize it. I like to make it look cute. I have boards for all types of things. For example, I have boards, and boards are kind of like little hubs within Notion that you can kind of create little mini systems and organization systems in there. I have one for Slow Morning Diaries. I have one for Sunday Paper House. I have one for healthy meal planning. I have one for home DIY projects. You can see the huge variety of things that I use it for. And like I said, it's a massive database. So I create these hubs, these boards in Notion, and I just use them on a case-by-case basis. So on a quarterly sense, I have a quarterly little section in my Notion where I look at it on a quarterly basis whenever I'm doing my quarterly reviews. Again, you'll see that in those videos, those quarterly review videos. On a monthly basis, I may go into those hubs like the examples that I mentioned and just do some maintenance or update whatever I need to update or anything of the sort. And then on a weekly and daily basis, I'm going in there because I have some weekly/daily to-do lists in there that I try to upkeep, maintain, and update regularly in Notion. So depending on what I am focusing on for the day, the week, the month, whatever it may be, I will go into Notion and go into that applicable space and do what I need to do in terms of updating, maybe grabbing information, maybe checking something off, whatever it may be. And again, it's on a case-by-case basis. A lot of these things are on a particular time-framed basis, which is why I call that out, and it's part of the Stress Less, Live More system, because that system is all based on different time frames and doing certain things at different time frames. It's not doing all of the things at the same time. So hopefully that helps you feel less overwhelmed with the amount of information in this series, because on a yearly basis, you're only doing like 2 things. On a monthly basis, maybe you're doing way more. Maybe on a daily basis, you're doing a couple of things. It all depends. It all varies, but it's never ever doing all the things all at the same time. So you can definitely release some stress off of your shoulders there if you thought that like you had to do a ton of things every single day, every single moment, every single month, whatever it may be. You don't have to do that. You just have to set the system up, like I've mentioned multiple times. And then once the system is set up, you just use it for maintenance and case by case basis. So that is all for this video. Hopefully it wasn't too overwhelming. This is my personal system, and you definitely don't need to do it exactly how I do. You could definitely use like 1 or 2 tools or productivity systems, and it would definitely be sufficient. You can only use one. Like if you wanted to just use a planner, you can definitely make it work. I just like to have digital options because if I'm out and about and I don't necessarily have my planner with me, I can always pull it up very quickly on my phone. And so things are just more convenient for me in that sense sometimes. But again, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this series. The number one question that I get when it comes to my slow living journey is, how do I find the time to do it? And you all know that I'm a very busy person. I have a 9 to 5. I am trying to launch my brand new business from scratch. I have so many other things that I want to do in my life, and this is how I'm able to do it. It's a system. It's a very structured system that also allows me to play and be a little bit loose once I've had that system kind of set in place. And so I'm sharing this system with you in the event that you are also extremely busy. I'm sure so many of you are extremely busy, and that is exactly why you've been asking me this question. So hopefully this is helpful and at the very least interesting. But thanks once again for hanging out with me, and I will talk to you in the next video.